The alarm bells rang through Nexus Station like a death song. Admiral Kira Voss pressed her crystal hand against the cold metal wall and felt the vibrations run through her translucent body. Another fleet was gone. The 7th one this month. How many ships did we lose this time? She asked without turning around. Her voice carried the weight of 3 years of constant defeat. Commander Zeth walked up behind her, his insect-like legs clicking on the metal floor. His forearms held data tablets that glowed with bad news. The entire 4th Defense Fleet, 67 ships, no survivors. Kira closed her large, diamond-like eyes. 67 ships meant thousands of lives. Thousands of families who would never see their loved ones again. The Zephyrian Empire was crushing them, one system at a time, one fleet at a time. That brings our total losses to, she started to say. 70% of all combined forces, Zeth finished. Admiral Voss, we cannot keep fighting like this. The enemy learns from every battle. Their bioships get stronger while we get weaker. Kira turned around and looked at the insect commander. Zeth had been her friend for many years, even before the war started. She trusted him more than anyone else in the coalition. If he was losing hope, then things were really bad. Call a meeting, she said. Get all the remaining fleet commanders. Here, we need to talk. 2 hours later, the war room was full of worried faces. The Viridian crystal beings sparkled dimly in the low light. The Nathara floated in their gas suits, their cloud-like bodies swirling with nervous energy. The Kithara stood on their insect legs, their multiple eyes watching everything at once. Supreme Commander Thexala spoke first. Her voice buzzed through the translator. We have lost too much. The Zephyrians are too strong. They adapt to everything. We throw at them. Admiral Voss looked at the holographic display in the center of the room. Red dots showed where the enemy had taken control. There were so many red dots now. 17 whole star systems belonged to the Zephyrians. Billions of people were dead or enslaved. Their bioships are like nothing we have ever seen, said Fleet Commander Jex of the Nathara. His gas body turned dark blue with fear. They eat our energy weapons and grow stronger. They heal from damage in minutes. How do we fight something like that? The room fell silent. Everyone knew the answer. They couldn't fight the Zephyrians, not anymore. The enemy was too advanced, too adaptable, too powerful. Maybe we should retreat, whispered Commander Thexala. Pull back to the outer rim. Try to save what we can. And let them take everything? Admiral Voss slammed her crystal fist on the table. Let them destroy every world between here and the edge of space? No, there has to be another way. What other way? Asked Jex. We have tried everything. Our best weapons, our smartest tactics, our strongest ships. Nothing works against them. The lights in the room dimmed as another ship arrived at the station. This happened all the time now. Refugee ships, supply vessels, the few military ships that were left. But something was different this time. Lieutenant Kex ran into the room, his young face excited. Admiral Voss, you need to see this. What is it, Lieutenant? She asked. New ships just came out of hyperspace. Lots of them. But they're not in our database. We don't know who they are. Admiral Voss stood up quickly. Unknown ships could mean more enemies. Or maybe, just maybe, new allies. Put them on the main screen. The holographic display changed to show the space around Nexus Station. There, hanging in the darkness, was a fleet of ships like nothing they had ever seen. The vessels were gray and angular, with no organic curves. They looked hard and dangerous, like weapons made of metal and purpose. Are they Zephyrian? Asked Commander Thexala. No, said Jex. Zephyrian ships are alive. These look completely artificial. A communication signal came through the speakers. The voice that spoke was clear and strong, using the common galactic language but with a strange accent. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress beacon. Humanity has arrived. The alien commanders looked at each other with confusion. Earth? That was the small blue planet on the edge of known space. The species there had barely discovered faster than light travel 50 years ago. They were primitive compared to the great galactic civilizations. Earth? Admiral Voss spoke into the communicator. Admiral Morrison, we appreciate your offer to help, but I'm not sure you understand the situation here. We understand perfectly, Admiral Voss, came the reply. We've been monitoring Zephyrian movements for months. We know what you're facing, and we're here to help. Commander Zeth leaned over to Admiral Voss and whispered, What can they possibly do? Their technology is centuries behind ours. If we can't stop the Zephyrians, how can they? Admiral Voss had the same doubts, but she was desperate. Admiral Morrison, we would welcome any assistance, but you should know that we have lost 70% of our combined fleets. The enemy has bioships that adapt to our weapons. They learn from every battle and become stronger. There was a pause before the human voice replied. When it came back, there was something in the tone that made everyone in the room pay attention. Confidence. Not the desperate hope they had been living on, but real, solid confidence. Admiral Voss, we would like to request permission to dock with your station. My tactical team needs to review your battle data. We have some ideas that might surprise you. Ideas? What ideas could a primitive species have that the greatest minds in the galaxy hadn't already tried? But Admiral Voss was out of options. Permission granted, Admiral Morrison. Docking Bay 7 is clear for your shuttle. As the communication ended, the room remained quiet. Everyone was thinking the same thing. These humans had traveled across space to help them, but what could they really do? Their ships looked basic. Their technology was simple. They were just one small species against an empire that had conquered 17 star systems. Well, said Admiral Voss finally, I guess we're about to find out what humanity can offer. Outside the station, the human fleet hung in space like a promise or maybe a threat. The ships were smaller than the great vessels of the Galactic Coalition, but there was something about them that made them look dangerous. They were built for war, not for show. Inside those ships, human crews prepared for what they had come here to do. They had been planning this moment for months, studying every battle report, every tactical analysis, every piece of data about the Zephyrian Empire. The humans knew something that the Galactic Coalition had not yet learned. Sometimes the best way to fight an advanced enemy was not with more advanced weapons, but with weapons they had never seen before. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the alien station. Soon, he would meet with their commanders and show them what humanity had learned from 10,000 years of warfare. The Zephyrians thought they were unstoppable because they could adapt to energy weapons and advanced technology. But they had never faced kinetic weapons fired by a species that had spent millennia learning how to kill its own kind. They were about to discover that evolution had given humanity something no other species possessed: the knowledge of how to wage war against equals. The docking bay doors opened with a soft hiss. Admiral Kira Voss stood waiting with her senior officers, watching as the human shuttle settled onto the deck. The craft was smaller than she expected, built from gray metal with no decorative elements. It looked like a tool rather than a symbol of power. 3 humans stepped out of the shuttle. They wore simple blue uniforms with no fancy designs. The leader was a tall man with short brown hair and calm eyes. He walked with the steady pace of someone who had seen many battles. Admiral Voss, the man said, extending his hand in the human greeting gesture. I'm Admiral Jake Morrison. Thank you for allowing us to dock. Kira touched his hand briefly with her crystal fingers. The human's skin was warm and soft, so different from her own hard surface. Admiral Morrison, welcome to Nexus Station. Though I must warn you, the situation here is worse than our distress signals indicated. We understand, said a woman beside Morrison. She had black hair pulled back and sharp, intelligent eyes. I'm Commander Lisa Park, Tactical Officer. We've studied your battle reports during our journey here. The third human was younger, with blonde hair and an eager expression. Chief Engineer Ryan Cole, he introduced himself. I've been looking forward to examining your fleet data. Admiral Voss led them through the station corridors. Other aliens stopped to stare at the humans. Most had never seen their species before. The humans looked so ordinary compared to the crystal beauty of the Viridians or the flowing grace of the Nethera. Tell me, Admiral Morrison, Kira said as they walked, what exactly do you think you can do that we cannot? The Zephyrian bioships have defeated every strategy we've tried. Morrison was quiet for a moment. Admiral, how long has your species been fighting wars? The question surprised her. The Viridians have had conflicts for about 3,000 years, but mostly small disputes over territory or resources. And the other species in your coalition? Similar timelines. The Kythera have the most experience with warfare, perhaps. 5,000 years. But why does this matter? They entered the war room where the other commanders waited. Commander Thexala's insect eyes focused on the humans with curiosity. Fleet Commander Jex's gas body swirled nervously in his containment suit. Morrison looked at the holographic display showing the current tactical situation. Red dots marked Zephyrian territory. Blue dots showed coalition forces. There were far more red dots than blue. Humanity has been at war for 10,000 years, Morrison said quietly. Not with other species, but with ourselves. Every weapon we've built, every tactic we've developed, came from fighting other humans who were just as smart and creative as we were. Commander Park stepped forward and activated a data pad. We've analyzed your battle records. Your weapons are impressive. Plasma cannons, energy shields, gravity manipulators, very advanced technology. But they're all energy-based, added Engineer Cole. Every single weapon system in your fleets uses some form of directed energy. Admiral Voss felt confused. Of course, energy weapons are the most efficient way to deliver destructive force across space. Morrison nodded. For most purposes, yes. But the Zephyrians evolved to fight energy-based civilizations. Their bioships can absorb energy and redirect it. They've been doing this for millions of years. We know this. Commander Thexala buzzed impatiently. This is why we cannot defeat them. They adapt to our weapons. But what if, Commander Park said, you used weapons they've never encountered? Weapons that work on completely different principles, the OW. Room fell silent. Fleet Commander Jex's gas body turned yellow with confusion. What other weapons are there? Energy is the fundamental force of the universe. Morrison smiled for the first time since arriving. Energy is one force, but there are others. Mass, momentum, chemical reactions. Humans never developed energy weapons as our primary military technology. What do you mean? Asked Admiral Voss. Engineer Cole activated another display. It showed human weapons systems. The aliens leaned forward to examine the strange devices. These are railguns, Cole explained. They use magnetic fields to accelerate solid projectiles to extremely high speeds. No energy beam, no plasma, just metal moving very fast. And these, Commander Park added, pointing to another section, are explosive missiles. They carry chemical warheads that create shockwaves and shrapnel. Physical destruction rather than energy absorption. Commander Thexala's multiple eyes blinked rapidly. You still use solid projectiles? Like primitive kinetic weapons? Exactly, Morrison said. Except our projectiles move at significant fractions of light speed. When a tungsten rod hits something at those velocities, it doesn't matter how advanced the target's armor is. Admiral Voss studied the human weapon designs. They looked so simple compared to Viridian plasma technology. But how can these primitive weapons be effective against bioships that have evolved for millions of years? Because they never evolved to handle kinetic impacts, Commander Park explained. Think about it. What kind of natural environment produces high-velocity solid projectiles? Meteor impacts happen rarely. Volcanic eruptions create debris, but not at relativistic speeds. Morrison walked to the display and pointed at a Zephyrian bioship image. These creatures adapted to absorb and redirect energy because that's what they encountered in space: solar radiation, cosmic rays, energy weapons from other species. But they never faced anything like human warfare. Show them the test results, Engineer Cole said excitedly. Commander Park activated another file. We captured a small Zephyrian bioship 3 months ago. Dead, but with its adaptive systems still intact. We ran experiments. The display showed a laboratory setting. The aliens watched as human weapons fired at the bioship sample. Energy weapons were absorbed just as expected. But when the railgun fired, something different happened. The tungsten projectile punched straight through the bioarmor without triggering any adaptive response. The organic material simply couldn't process the threat fast enough. The bioship's systems tried to adapt, Cole explained, but adaptation takes time. The projectile was through and out the other side before the creature could even recognize what was happening. Fleet Commander Jex's gas body turned bright orange with excitement. You mean their greatest strength is useless against your weapons? Not just useless, Morrison said. Their adaptation system actually works against them. When they try to process kinetic threats, it confuses their other defense systems. Admiral Voss felt something she hadn't experienced in 3 years of war. Hope. Real, genuine hope. Admiral Morrison, are you saying that your fleet can actually damage Zephyrian bioships? Damage them? Morrison's smile grew wider. Admiral, we're going to destroy them so completely that their own empire won't recognize what's left. Commander Thexala leaned forward on her insect legs. But your fleet is so small compared to theirs. Even if your weapons work, you'll be outnumbered hundreds to 1. Numbers matter less than you think, Commander Park said. Zephyrian tactics are based on overwhelming their enemies with superior technology. They've never faced an opponent who could match their adaptability with pure innovation. Morrison looked around the room at all the alien faces. Humanity spent 10,000 years learning how to kill other humans. We developed tactics for fighting enemies who were just as smart, just as adaptable, and just as determined as we were. The Zephyrians have never faced anything like that. Engineer Cole pulled up fleet deployment plans. We'd like to coordinate our next attack with your remaining forces. Use your ships to draw their attention while we demonstrate what human warfare looks like. Where? Admiral Voss asked. Morrison studied the tactical display. The Kepler 442 system. Intelligence reports show a major Zephyrian biofleet consuming the mining worlds there. Perfect target for our first strike. First strike? Commander Thexala buzzed. You plan to attack their main battle fleet with your small force? Not attack, Morrison corrected. Annihilate. When we're done, there won't be enough left of that biofleet for the Zephyrians to learn anything from the encounter. The room was quiet as the aliens processed this information. These humans, with their simple appearance and basic technology, claimed they could do what the greatest galactic civilizations could not. Admiral Voss looked at Morrison's calm, confident face. Either these humans were delusional, or they were about to change the course of the war. Admiral Morrison, she said slowly, when can your fleet be ready to move? We're ready now, he replied. The question is, are you ready to see what happens when humanity goes to war? The combined fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Admiral Kira Voss stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as the human vessels took formation. The alien ships spread out in their usual defensive pattern, ready for another grinding battle. But the human fleet moved differently. Their ships formed tight groups like hunting packs. Each group had different types of vessels working together in ways that seemed almost instinctive. Human fleet positions confirmed, reported Lieutenant Kex from his station. Admiral Morrison is requesting tactical command. Admiral Voss hesitated for only a moment. Granted, all coalition ships will follow human orders. On the main screen, the inner system came into view. 3 mining worlds orbited the yellow star, their surfaces stripped bare by massive bioships. The Zephyrian fleet hung in space like living cancers, feeding on the planet's resources. By the crystals, whispered Commander Zeth. Look at the size of that thing. The largest bioship was enormous, easily 10 times bigger than any coalition vessel. Its organic hull pulsed with veins of light, and smaller creatures swam around it like fish around a whale. Intelligence had designated it the apex predator. 57 enemy vessels confirmed, came Admiral Morrison's voice over the communication channel. Looks like we caught them with their guard down. Captain Steve. Carter's voice crackled through from the destroyer UES Defiant. Admiral, we're reading massive bioenergy signatures. These things are fully charged and ready for battle. Perfect, Morrison replied calmly. That means they'll be overconfident. Captain Rodriguez, take your group around the asteroid field. Captain Carter, you're with me on the direct approach. Admiral Voss watched the human ships break formation and spread out. It looked chaotic compared to proper military formations, but there was a pattern to it that reminded her of something wild and dangerous. The Zephyrian fleet detected the approaching ships and began to move. The bio-vessels turned toward the coalition force with lazy confidence. They had won this same battle dozens of times before. The apex predator pulsed brighter and sent out a communication burst. The translation came through as a mix of chemical signals and bioelectric patterns. Small flesh creatures come to feed us. We welcome your energy. We will grow stronger from your defeat. All human ships. Morrison's voice cut through the alien communication. Weapons free. Show them what Earth brings to this war. The first human ship to fire was Captain Carter's destroyer Defiant. Instead of the bright energy beams the Zephyrians expected, something different happened. A series of small flashes appeared along the ship's hull, followed by streaks of light moving faster than the eye could follow. Tungsten rods, each weighing several tons, accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic rails. They crossed the distance to the nearest bioship in seconds. The impact was unlike anything Admiral Voss had ever seen. The bioship's adaptive armor, designed to absorb energy weapons, offered no protection against solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. The rods punched through the creature's hull like bullets through paper. The bioship convulsed as its internal systems tried to understand what was happening. Dark fluid leaked from the holes in its armor. Its bioluminescent patterns flickered and went dark. First kill confirmed, reported Captain Carter. Target down. But the humans were just getting started. Captain Amy Rodriguez's cruiser Vigilant opened fire from the asteroid field. Instead of railgun rounds, it launched missiles, hundreds of them. The Zephyrian point defense systems activated, trying to intercept the incoming projectiles with energy beams, but the missiles were designed to survive that kind of attack. They had thick armor and redundant systems. Most of them made it through. The explosions were spectacular. Chemical warheads detonated in precise patterns around the bioships. Shrapnel clouds tore through organic armor that had never evolved to handle high-velocity fragments. "What are those weapons?" Admiral Voss asked in amazement. Commander Park's voice came through from the human flagship. High-explosive anti-ship missiles with fragmenting warheads. Each one carries enough firepower to level a city block. 3 more bioships died in the first minute of combat. Their organic hulls ruptured and vented atmosphere mixed with biological fluids. The creatures' death cries echoed across radio frequencies as their bioelectric systems failed. The Zephyrian fleet finally began to react. The apex predator turned toward the human ships, its massive bulk moving with surprising speed. Energy weapons charged along its flanks, ready to deliver the kind of devastating attack that had destroyed so many coalition fleets. "Here it comes," Morrison said over the communication channel. "All ships, evasive maneuvers, don't let them target you." The great bioship fired. Streams of acidic plasma reached out toward the human vessels, enough energy to melt through any known armor. But the human ships were already moving, changing course and speed in random patterns. Most of the plasma missed entirely. The few hits that connected struck ships that had already moved their vital systems away from the impact points. Human damage control teams worked with practiced efficiency to seal breaches and reroute power. "Their fire control can't keep up with our maneuvering," reported Captain Rodriguez. "These things are used to fighting predictable targets." "Then let's be unpredictable," Morrison replied. "All ships, attack pattern Charlie. Time to show them how humans hunt." The human fleet split into smaller groups and began moving in seemingly random directions. But Admiral Voss began to see the pattern. They were herding the bioships, cutting off escape routes and forcing them into kill zones. Captain Carter's destroyer worked with 2 smaller corvettes to trap a medium-sized bioship. They fired from 3 different angles simultaneously, giving the creature no time to adapt to any single threat. The bioship tried to regenerate damage from the first impacts while the second and third waves tore it apart. "This is incredible," whispered Commander Zeth. "They're hunting them like pack animals." The apex predator roared across all frequencies and charged toward Admiral Morrison's flagship, the UES Liberty. The massive creature intended to end this battle by destroying the human commander. But Morrison had been expecting this. All ships focus fire on the big one. Coordinated strike pattern Delta. Every human vessel turned toward the apex predator and fired at once. Railgun rounds, missiles, and kinetic projectiles created a wall of death moving toward the bioship. The creature's adaptive systems went into overdrive, trying to process dozens of different threats simultaneously. Its bio-armor began growing thicker, developing new defensive structures, changing its internal layout to survive the incoming attack. But adaptation takes time, and the human weapons moved at the speed of physics. The first rounds punched through armor that was still forming. The explosions disrupted biosystems that were in the middle of changing. The creature's own adaptation process became a weakness, as its body couldn't decide what configuration would work best. The apex predator staggered under the assault. Massive holes appeared in its hull. Its bioluminescent patterns went chaotic as its nervous system tried to cope with damage it had never experienced before. "Target is hurt, but still active," reported Captain Rodriguez. "Recommend follow-up strike." "Negative," Morrison said. "Lieutenant Commander Murphy, you're up." A small corvette, the UES Ranger, broke away from the main fleet and accelerated toward the wounded apex predator. It was tiny compared to the bioship, like a minnow approaching a whale. But Lieutenant Commander Dan Murphy had something special planned. "Nuclear torpedoes armed and ready," he reported. "Beginning attack run." The Ranger fired 6 missiles in rapid succession. These were different from the conventional warheads used earlier. Each one carried a fusion warhead designed to detonate inside the target. The bioship's point defenses, already damaged and confused, managed to intercept only 2 of the incoming missiles. 4 nuclear warheads penetrated deep into the creature's body before detonating. The explosion was visible across the entire star system. The apex predator died in a cascade of nuclear fire, its biosystems overwhelmed by energy release beyond anything in its evolutionary experience. The remaining Zephyrian ships began to retreat, but Morrison wasn't finished. "No survivors," he ordered grimly. "They adapt too quickly. We can't let them learn from this encounter." The human fleet pursued the fleeing bioships with ruthless efficiency. None of the enemy vessels escaped to carry tactical data back to their empire. In less than 2 hours, the entire Zephyrian fleet was destroyed. Admiral Voss stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Where 57 enemy ships had been, now there was only debris and dissipating energy clouds. The human fleet hung in space, barely damaged, ready for the next battle. "Admiral Morrison," she said over the communication channel, "I've never seen anything like this. How did you make it look so easy?" Morrison's reply was matter-of-fact. "Admiral, the Zephyrians have been fighting the same kind of enemy for millions of years. They've never faced anything like human warfare. We just showed them what happens when evolution meets innovation." The news of the Kepler 442 victory spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Admiral Kira Voss sat in her quarters aboard Nexus Station, reading report after report of Zephyrian fleets suddenly changing their behavior. The bioships that had been so aggressive were now moving more carefully, avoiding direct confrontations. "They're scared," she said to Commander Zeth as he entered her room. "For the first time in 3 years, the Zephyrians are afraid." Zeth's insect eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Admiral Morrison's fleet has requested permission to attack the Rigel sector. Intelligence reports show a major bioship construction facility there." Admiral Voss stood up and walked to the viewing port. Outside, she could see the human ships preparing for their next mission. The crews worked with calm efficiency, loading ammunition and checking systems. They acted like this was just another day at work. "How many more victories like Kepler 442 do you think we need?" she asked. "Admiral Morrison believes we need to hit at least 6 major fleets before the Zephyrians can adapt their tactics," Zeth replied. "But each battle gets more dangerous. The enemy will start changing their approach." 2 days later, the combined fleet arrived at the Rigel sector. This time, the Zephyrians were ready for them. The bioships had formed defensive clusters around their construction facility, a massive organic structure that grew new vessels like fruit on a tree. Captain Steve Carter studied the enemy formation from the bridge of his destroyer Defiant. "They've learned something from our last attack," he reported to Admiral Morrison. "Look at their positioning." The bioships were no longer spread out in the usual confident patterns. Instead, they had formed tight groups with overlapping fields of fire. Smaller ships surrounded the larger ones, creating layers of defense. "Smart," admitted Commander Lisa Park from the flagship Liberty. "They're trying to limit our ability to pick them off one by one." Admiral Morrison examined the tactical display. "They're adapting their strategy, but they're still thinking like energy weapon users. All ships prepare for attack pattern Gamma. We're going to show them that human tactics can adapt too." Captain Amy Rodriguez spoke up from her cruiser Vigilant. "Admiral, I'm reading some unusual energy signatures from their construction facility. It looks like they're growing something big in there." "Understood, Captain. That facility is our primary target, but first we need to clear the Guardian fleet." The human ships moved into attack formation, but this time they faced a more organized enemy. The Zephyrian bioships coordinated their fire, creating walls of acidic plasma that filled space with deadly energy. Lieutenant Ben Hughes managed the targeting systems aboard the Liberty. "Sir, their overlapping fire zones are making it hard to get close. We're taking more hits than usual." "Then we don't get close," Morrison replied. "All ships, maximum range engagement. Show them what human artillery can do." The human fleet stopped advancing and opened fire from extreme range. Railgun rounds crossed the vast distance at relativistic speeds, while long-range missiles followed complex flight paths to avoid interception. The Zephyrians had never faced this kind of attack before. Their tactics were based on close range, energy combat where both sides could see each other clearly. The idea of weapons that could kill from millions of kilometers away was foreign to them. The first bioship died before its crew even realized they were under attack. A tungsten rod moving at significant fractions of light speed punched through the creature's core, causing a cascade failure that killed it instantly. "Target down," reported Captain Carter, adjusting fire to target Cluster 2. But the Zephyrians were learning fast. The surviving bioships began moving in unpredictable patterns, trying to make themselves harder to hit. Some of them started charging toward the human fleet, accepting losses to get within their preferred fighting range. "Here they come," warned Commander Park. 6 bioships breaking formation and advancing at maximum speed. Morrison watched the approaching enemies on his tactical display. "Let them come. Sergeant Santos, prepare boarding teams. We're going." To try something new, Sergeant Maria Santos had been waiting for this order. She led a team of human Marines who specialized in fighting in hostile environments. "Marines are ready, Admiral. Boarding pods locked and loaded." As the Zephyrian bioships closed the distance, the human fleet appeared to retreat. The enemy crews felt a surge of confidence as they chased their prey. But it was a trap. When the bioships were committed to their charge, the humans suddenly reversed course. Small boarding pods launched from the human ships, each one carrying a squad of Marines armed with weapons designed for close combat. The pods attached themselves to the bioships' hulls and began cutting through the organic armor. The Zephyrians had never faced boarding actions before. Their ships were living creatures that could heal from damage, but they had no defense against enemies who were already inside. Sergeant Santos led her team through the corridors of a bioship that pulsed like the inside of a living heart. The walls were warm and wet, covered with veins that carried nutrients throughout the creature. Strange sounds echoed around them as the ship's immune system tried to understand what was happening. "Plant the charges here," Santos ordered her demolition expert, "right next to what looks like the main nervous system." The explosive devices were designed specifically for bioships. Instead of simple chemical reactions, they used sonic weapons that disrupted the creature's neural networks. When they detonated, the bioship would lose coordination between its different systems. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Dan Murphy aboard the Corvette Ranger was dealing with his own challenges. 3 bioships had surrounded his small vessel and were trying to crush it with energy weapons. "Hull breach on Deck 3, reported his damage control officer. "We're venting atmosphere." Murphy gritted his teeth and checked his weapon status. Load nuclear torpedoes. If we're going down, we're taking them with us. But rescue came from an unexpected source. Captain Rodriguez's Vigilant appeared behind the bioships and opened fire with everything she had. Missile after missile slammed into the creature's rear armor, causing massive damage. "Thanks for the save, Captain," Murphy said over the communication channel. "That's what teamwork is for, Commander. Now let's finish these things off." The battle continued for 3 hours, but gradually the human advantages became clear. Their ability to coordinate multiple types of attacks overwhelmed the Zephyrians' adaptive systems. Every time the bioships started to counter one threat, the humans switched to a different weapon or tactic. Dr. Karen Bell watched the battle from the Liberty Science Station. "Admiral, I'm seeing something interesting in the bioships' behavior patterns. They're starting to show stress responses in their organic systems." "What kind of stress?" Morrison asked. "Their adaptation processes are being overloaded. They're trying to evolve defenses against kinetic weapons, explosive weapons, sonic weapons, and boarding actions all at the same time. Their biosystems can't handle that much change." Morrison smiled grimly. "Then let's give them even more to think about. All ships switch to incendiary rounds. Let's see how they adapt to fire." The next wave of human attacks used weapons that created intense heat and flames. The bioships, with their organic hulls and internal atmospheres, proved highly vulnerable to fire-based weapons. Several creatures died when flames spread through their internal systems faster than they could regenerate. "Admiral," reported Captain Carter, "the construction facility is starting to release whatever they were building. It's big." On the main screen, a new bioship emerged from the organic construction facility. It was larger than anything they had seen before, with armor that seemed to shift and change even as they watched. This creature had been designed specifically to fight human weapons. "Looks like they've been busy," Morrison observed. "All ships focus fire on the new target. Let's see what their latest creation can do." The new bioship moved with surprising speed for something so large. Its weapons were different too, firing solid projectiles instead of energy beams. The Zephyrians were trying to fight humans with human-style weapons, but copying the weapons was not enough. The bioship's projectiles were slow and predictable compared to human railgun rounds. Its armor, designed to stop kinetic impacts, was vulnerable to the sonic weapons that had proven so effective. "It's trying to mimic our tactics," Commander Park observed, "but it doesn't understand the principles behind them." The new bioship died like all the others, overwhelmed by weapons and tactics it couldn't comprehend fast enough to counter. When the construction facility itself was destroyed, the remaining Zephyrian forces finally broke and ran. But this time, a few enemy ships managed to escape into hyperspace before the humans could stop them. "Let them go," Morrison said when his captains asked for permission to pursue. "It's time the Zephyrian Empire learned what they're really facing." Admiral Voss watched the retreating bioships disappear into hyperspace. For the first time, Zephyrian vessels were carrying news of defeat back to their masters. The enemy would finally understand that humanity was not just another species to be conquered. "What happens now?" she asked Morrison. "Now they know we exist," he replied. "And they know we can hurt them. The real war is about to begin." The emergency session at Nexus Station brought together representatives from across the galaxy. Admiral Kira Voss looked around the packed conference room at faces she had never seen before. Word of humanity's victories had spread, and species that had remained neutral were now asking to join the coalition. "The Altaran Republic wishes to pledge 12 battle cruisers to the human fleet," announced Ambassador Lex, her blue skin shimmering with excitement. "Our people have suffered Zephyrian raids for 2 years. We want revenge." Similar offers came from a dozen other species. The Molari Confederation offered supply ships. The Centauri Collective wanted to share their intelligence networks. Everyone wanted to be part of what they were calling the human miracle. Admiral Jake Morrison listened to each offer with polite attention, but Admiral Voss could see he was thinking about something else. When the formal presentations ended, she approached him in the corridor outside. "You look worried, Admiral," she said. "These new allies should be good news." Morrison stopped walking and turned to face her. "Admiral Voss, How long do you think it takes for information to travel across the Zephyrian Empire? The question surprised her. Their bioships are connected through some kind of organic network. Intelligence estimates suggest nearly instantaneous communication across their territory. Why? Because that means every Zephyrian commander now knows exactly how we destroyed their fleets. They've had 2 weeks to analyze our tactics and develop countermeasures. Commander Lisa Park joined them, carrying a data pad with fresh intelligence reports. Admiral, we're getting concerning news from our deep space monitoring stations. Zephyrian fleet movements have changed dramatically. She activated the pad's holographic display. Red dots showed enemy positions across 17 star systems, but instead of the scattered patrol patterns they had seen before, the bioships were now moving in coordinated formations toward a single point. They're concentrating their entire military force, Park continued. Every available bioship is converging on the Proxima Nebula. Our estimates suggest they're assembling the largest fleet in galactic history. Admiral Voss felt her crystal heart skip a beat. How many ships? Over 3,000 biovessels, Park replied quietly, including at least 50 of their largest command ships. The corridor fell silent. 3,000 ships was more than the entire galactic coalition had ever fielded at one time. Even with their new allies, the humans would be outnumbered 20-1. Morrison studied the tactical display with calm eyes. They're not just trying to stop us, he said. They're trying to end this war with one decisive battle. Can we avoid it? Admiral Voss asked. Maybe attack their supply lines instead, force them to spread out again? No, Morrison said firmly. They've learned too much about our capabilities. If we don't face them now, they'll adapt their entire empire to counter our advantages. This might be our only chance to hit them before they become truly prepared. Dr. Karen Bell's voice came through the communication system. Admiral Morrison, please report to the science lab. We've discovered something you need to see. They found Dr. Bell examining biological samples from destroyed Zephyrian ships. Her expression was grim as she showed them microscopic images of the creatures' adaptive systems. The bioships that escaped our last battle carried more than just tactical information, she explained. They brought back actual samples of our weapons' effects on their organic systems. She switched to another image showing Zephyrian biomaterial that had been altered in disturbing ways. They're growing new armor types specifically designed to resist kinetic impacts. Look at this structure. It's like organic steel mesh woven through living tissue. Commander Park leaned closer to examine the samples. How effective is it? Against our current weapons, maybe 60% reduction in damage. But that's not the worst part. Dr. Bell activated another display. They're also developing bioweapons designed to counter human physiology. The new images showed microscopic organisms that looked like tiny machines made of living tissue. These are targeted bioviruses. They're engineered to attack human DNA specifically. If they deploy these in combat, our boarding teams won't be able to operate on their ships. Admiral Voss realized the implications immediately. They're not just adapting to our weapons. They're adapting to fight humans specifically. Morrison was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Finally, he activated his communication device. All human ship captains report to the main briefing room. Emergency tactical meeting in 1 hour. The briefing room was packed with human officers. Captain Steve Carter sat next to Captain Amy Rodriguez, both of them looking tense. Lieutenant Commander Dan Murphy reviewed fleet status reports while Sergeant Maria Santos prepared boarding equipment that might no longer be useful. Morrison stood at the front of the room, his expression serious but determined. By now you've all heard about the Zephyrian superfleet gathering in the Proxima Nebula. 3,000 bioships, all of them adapted to fight our weapons and tactics. He activated the main display, showing the enemy concentration. Intelligence suggests they plan to use this force to crush us completely, then continue their expansion across the galaxy with immunity to human-style warfare. Captain Carter raised his hand. Admiral, with respect, those odds are impossible. Even if every shot we fire is a kill, we don't have enough ammunition to destroy 3,000 ships. You're right, Captain, Morrison agreed, which is why we're not going to fight them ship to ship. He changed the display to show detailed scans of the Proxima Nebula. The enemy has chosen their battleground poorly. The nebula contains high concentrations of ionized gas and electromagnetic interference. Perfect conditions for a different kind of warfare. Commander Park stood up and joined Morrison at the display. We've been analyzing the nebula's composition. It's essentially a giant cloud of highly reactive materials just waiting for the right catalyst. Dr. Bell entered the room carrying a small device that hummed with contained energy. This is an experimental weapon we've been developing. A fusion igniter designed to trigger chain reactions in ionized gas. Morrison smiled for the first time in days. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to fight the Zephyrian fleet. We're going to burn it. The plan was audacious even by human standards. Instead of engaging the bioships directly, they would use the nebula itself as a weapon. Fusion igniters, placed at strategic points, would trigger a cascade reaction that would turn the entire cloud of gas into a stellar-scale furnace. The bioships won't be able to adapt to this, Dr. Bell explained. You can't evolve immunity to being inside a star. But the plan required precise timing and coordination. Human ships would have to penetrate deep into the nebula, place the igniters, and escape before the reaction began, all while under attack from the largest military force in galactic history. Questions? Morrison asked when the briefing ended. Captain Rodriguez raised her hand. Admiral, what are the chances of success? Morrison was quiet for a moment. Honestly, maybe 30%. But if we don't try this, the chances of humanity surviving the next year are close to zero. The room fell silent as the officers processed this information. They were being asked to attempt something that had never been tried before, against odds that were essentially hopeless. Sergeant Santos stood up from her seat. Admiral, when do we leave? Her simple question broke the tension in the room. One by one, the other officers voiced their agreement. They understood the risks, but they also understood what was at stake. We leave in 6 hours, Morrison announced. Get your ships ready and your crews prepared. We're about to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity's survival. As the officers filed out to prepare their vessels, Admiral Voss approached Morrison one last time. Admiral, I want you to know that whatever happens, humanity has already changed the course of this war. You've given the galaxy hope again. Morrison shook her crystal hand in the human gesture of farewell. Admiral, we didn't come here to give hope. We came here to win, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Outside Nexus Station, the human fleet prepared for what might be their final battle. The ships looked small against the vast darkness of space, but their crews worked with calm determination. They had trained for this moment their entire lives, even if they hadn't known it. Humanity was about to face its greatest test, armed with nothing but their weapons, their tactics, and their absolute refusal to surrender. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn why humans had spent 10,000 years fighting each other. They were about to discover that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one that refuses to accept defeat. The 5 alien students stood nervously at the landing pad as the Earth shuttle completed its docking procedure. None of them had ever set foot on a death world before. The very thought made Zixtar's forearms twitch with anxiety. Remember the briefings, Valara whispered, her translucent skin pulsing with nervous blue light. Humans may look similar to us, but they evolved in conditions that would kill any of our species in minutes. Krill bubbled nervously inside his methane environmental suit. I heard they have regular storms of acidic liquid that falls from the sky and they just walk around in it. Rain, corrected Glyphon, his silicon-based body making a soft scraping sound as he shifted his weight. They call it rain, and apparently they enjoy it. Morath, whose gaseous form swirled within a containment field, sighed. Let's not judge. Before we meet them, the Galactic Council approved this exchange for a reason. The shuttle door slid open with a hiss. 5 human cadets stepped out, standing straight in their crisp blue uniforms. The aliens immediately noticed how solidly the humans moved, as if the planet's harsh gravity meant nothing to them. Welcome to Earth and the Terran Military Academy, said a muscular human male who stepped forward first. I'm Cadet Squad Leader John Miller. These are my fellow cadets who will be your guides during your stay. The human female beside him nodded. Lisa Carter, Tactical Division. I'll be helping coordinate your schedule. A broad-shouldered human with an easy smile waved. Daniel Wright, Weapons Specialist. Don't worry, I'm friendlier than my title suggests. Amanda Fisher, Communications, said another female, her eyes bright with curiosity. I've studied all your languages, though I'm still working on Morath's gas pattern speech. The last human stepped forward with a medical scanner already in hand. Paul Garcia, Medical Division. I'll be monitoring your health adaptations to Earth conditions. Zixtar forced his four hands to remain still as he stepped forward to represent the alien delegation. We thank you for this opportunity. I am Zixtar from Proxima Centauri. My world has 1/3 of Earth's gravity and no predatory species. The other aliens introduced themselves one by one. When Krill mentioned he came from methane oceans where the temperature never rose above 180 degrees Celsius, Cadet Garcia whistled. And we thought Minnesota winters were cold, he joked, causing the other humans to laugh. The aliens didn't understand the reference but tried to smile politely with whatever passed for mouths in their species. A stern-looking human female approached the group. Unlike the cadets, she wore a uniform with numerous decorations and symbols of rank. I am Commander Susan White, director of this academy, she said, without preamble. Your presence here is historic. For too long, the galactic community has misunderstood Earth and humans. This exchange will hopefully begin to change that. Commander White gestured toward the massive complex behind her. Buildings of various shapes and sizes spread across a large area, with humans moving purposefully between them. In the distance, the aliens could see groups of cadets running in formation, climbing over obstacles, and practicing fighting moves against each other. While you are here, you will be treated as honorary cadets, Commander White continued. Accommodations have been made for your biological needs, but you will participate in all standard activities to the extent your physiology allows. Valara's skin flashed pale yellow with concern. All activities? Even combat training? Commander White's expression didn't change. Especially combat training. That is, after all, what a military academy is for. As they walked toward their quarters, the aliens tried not to show their discomfort with Earth's conditions. The gravity pulled at their bodies. The oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, while adjusted through their personal filters, felt thick and strange. Even the sunlight seemed harsh and dangerous. You'll get used to it, Lisa said, noticing their struggle. The first week is the hardest. How do you live in these conditions? Glyphon asked, his crystalline structure already showing stress fractures from the gravity. John shrugged. This is nothing. Wait until we have thunderstorm training next week. The aliens exchanged horrified glances. They had read about Earth's electrical atmospheric discharges, but couldn't imagine training during such events. Their quarters were a modified section of the freshman dormitory. Each room had been specially equipped for their unique biological needs. Krill's room was a sealed chamber filled with liquid methane. Morath had a zero-gravity field where his gaseous form could rest without containment. Zixtar had a low-gravity sleeping pod with 4 separate appendage rests for his arms. Glyphon's room featured a silicon regeneration bath. Valara's quarters were lined with psychic dampeners to prevent her telepathic abilities from being overwhelmed by thousands of human thoughts. The cafeteria has been stocked with food compatible with your digestive systems, Paul explained as he checked each room's environmental controls. Though I recommend trying some human foods that your species can process. Cultural exchange includes cuisine. After settling in, the aliens gathered in a common room with their human guides. The awkwardness was palpable. 2 groups, evolved on completely different worlds, trying to find common ground. So, Daniel said, breaking the silence, is it true that on Kepler 62F you can shatter a predator by singing at the right frequency? Glyphon's crystalline form vibrated with surprise. That's an ancient defensive technique no one has needed for millennia. How did you know about that? I study weapons systems of all species, Daniel said with genuine interest. What works, what doesn't, and why? Weapons, Morath's gas pattern shifted in what the translator indicated was disapproval. Always humans focus on weapons. Amanda intervened quickly. We focus on understanding. Earth has over 8,000 species that could kill a human. We had to understand threats to survive. 1,000? Valara's skin turned white with shock. And you still became the dominant species? John smiled grimly. We're not the strongest or fastest, but we're very good at surviving things that should kill us. As if to emphasize his point, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the complex. The human cadets immediately stood at attention. Other cadets rushed past the common room door. What's happening? Zixtar asked, his forearms flailing in alarm. Just a drill, Lisa explained calmly. Probably a simulated attack on the academy. Standard procedure. You practice being attacked? Krill bubbled nervously inside his suit. Paul nodded. At least twice a week. Sometimes with no warning, sometimes in the middle of the night. Commander White appeared at the doorway. Cadets, take our guests to the observation deck. This is the perfect opportunity to show them how we train. As they followed their guides through the suddenly busy hallways, the aliens watched in amazement as human cadets shifted from casual students to focused, disciplined units within seconds. They moved with purpose, checked equipment, communicated in short, efficient sentences, and showed no signs of fear or confusion. On the observation deck, the aliens watched as defense systems activated around the campus. Training squads moved into defensive positions. Command centers coordinated responses. What most shocked the aliens was how the humans seemed energized by the situation, rather than frightened. Is this how you always live? Valara asked Lisa. Ready for attack at any moment? Lisa considered the question seriously. I guess we do. Earth taught us that anything can happen at any time, so we prepare for everything. As the aliens watched the humans efficiently respond to their simulated crisis, they began to understand something fundamental about these Deathworlders. Humans didn't just survive their harsh planet, they had embraced its lessons and turned them into strengths, and they hadn't even seen the live ammunition training yet. The alien students struggled through their first week at the Terran Military Academy. Earth's gravity made each step feel like walking through thick mud. The constant noise of thousands of human minds gave Valara headaches despite her psychic dampeners. Krill's environmental suit needed constant adjustments to handle the temperature fluctuations. Glyphon's silicon body developed tiny cracks from the stress. Even Morath's gaseous form seemed more condensed than usual. I don't understand how you do this every day, Zixtar said to John as they walked to the morning physical training session. All four of his arms hung limply at his sides from exhaustion. John slowed his pace slightly. Your bodies will adjust. Somewhat. Humans who visit space stations have the opposite problem when they return. We call it readaptation. The morning routine began with what the humans called a light jog around the academy grounds. For the aliens, it was torture. Krill's methane-breathing apparatus wheezed and bubbled as he fell behind. Glyphon moved with jerky, painful motions. Valara floated slightly to reduce the gravity's pull, which the human instructor immediately noticed. No cheating, Cadet Valara, the instructor shouted. All four limbs on the ground like everyone else. Amanda jogged beside Morath, whose containment field struggled to keep up. Try to think of it as resistance training, she suggested helpfully. On your homeworld, you'll be much stronger after this. If we survive. Morath's gas patterns shifted in what the translator indicated was a groan. After the run came obstacle courses. The human cadets climbed walls, swung across mud pits, crawled under barbed wire, and balanced on narrow beams with practiced ease. The aliens watched in horror before being told they would attempt modified versions. I can't swim, Krill bubbled frantically when faced with a water obstacle. Paul checked the methane suit's integrity. Your suit is completely watertight and has flotation capabilities. Plus, I'll be right beside you. But what if it leaks? Water is corrosive to my biology. Despite his fears, Krill eventually made it across with Paul's help. The human's calm, confidence somehow made the impossible seem merely difficult. In the afternoon, the aliens observed hand-to-hand combat training. Human cadets paired off and practiced what looked like ritualized violence. They threw each other to the ground, twisted limbs into unnatural positions, and struck at vulnerable body parts, all while the instructor shouted corrections. "Why do you practice hurting each other?" Valara asked Lisa, her skin flashing deep purple with distress. Lisa demonstrated a wrist lock on Daniel, who tapped the ground 3 times to signal surrender. "We're not trying to hurt each other. We're learning. Control." See how Daniel tapped out and I released immediately? The goal is to know exactly how much force to use. On my world, physical contact between non-mated individuals is rare, Valara said. Lisa considered this. "How about we try something? I'll teach you one simple defensive move. If someone grabs your arm, you can break the grip without hurting them." After considerable coaxing, Valara allowed Lisa to show her the technique. To her surprise, successfully breaking Lisa's grip gave her an unexpected feeling of accomplishment. That evening, the human cadets invited their alien counterparts to what they called a recreation room. Inside were screens showing moving images of humans engaged in various activities from racing vehicles to exploring space. "What are these?" Zixtar asked, all 4 eyes wide as he watched humans in colorful outfits fighting with energy weapons. "Movies and video games," Daniel explained. "Entertainment. This one's called Star Crusaders. It's fiction, not real." The aliens gathered around, fascinated and horrified as human characters on the screen fought, bled, and sometimes died, all for entertainment. "You find pleasure in simulated death?" Glyphon's crystalline structure vibrated with confusion. "It's not about the violence," Amanda explained. "It's about the story, the challenges the characters overcome. The stakes have to be high for the victory to mean something." The aliens tried some simple games with mixed results. Zixtar's forearms gave him an advantage in a driving simulator. Morath was surprisingly good at a strategy game. Valara refused to play a shooting game, but became interested in a puzzle-solving adventure. After recreation time, the aliens returned to their quarters, exhausted but with a slightly better understanding of their human hosts. "Their contradictions," Valara said to her fellow aliens as they gathered in their common room. "So physically aggressive yet careful not to cause actual harm. I think they're constantly preparing." Morath swirled thoughtfully in his containment field. "Everything is training for something else." The next morning brought a new challenge, a formal human meal called breakfast. The cafeteria offered special food compatible with each alien's biology, but Commander White had requested they attempt to eat together as a cultural exchange. "What is this substance?" Glyphon asked, poking at a pile of yellow crystals on his plate. "Scrambled eggs," Paul explained. "Protein from unfertilized bird embryos cooked with milk and butter. Your silicon-based digestive system can process the minerals in it, though the taste will be different for you." Krill mistakenly tried to consume his fork, thinking the metal was part of the meal. Morath had special nutrient gas pumped into his containment field. Zixtar struggled to coordinate 4 hands with unfamiliar utensils. During the meal, Commander White approached their table. "There will be a cultural exchange dinner tomorrow evening. Each of you will share something about your homeworld with us, and we will do the same." The aliens spent the rest of the day preparing their presentations while trying to keep up with the humans' relentless schedule. They learned about Earth's climate zones, basic survival techniques, and emergency response protocols. Every lesson seemed to involve preparing for the worst possible outcome. "Why do you always assume disasters will happen?" Krill asked Daniel during a lesson on emergency evacuation. Daniel looked surprised by the question. "Because they do happen. Earthquakes, floods, fires, storms. Earth throws something deadly at us somewhere every day. Not being ready just means more people get hurt." The cultural exchange dinner began with the Academy's commanding officers joining the regular cadets and alien visitors. The dining hall was decorated with symbols from all represented worlds. Commander White started the exchange. "Earth has over 190 nations, thousands of languages, and countless cultures. Rather than try to represent all of them, Each human cadet will share something from their personal heritage. John spoke of his family's history as farmers who worked with their hands for generations. Lisa shared stories of her grandmother who had been a fighter pilot. Daniel talked about growing up near mountains where survival skills were taught from childhood. Amanda described her passion for languages that led her to the Academy's communication division. Paul explained how his family's tradition of healing went back centuries. When it was the aliens' turn, they shared what made their worlds unique. Zixtar described the floating cities of Proxima Centauri, where conflict had been eliminated through careful genetic selection. Valara explained her people's telepathic consensus building that made governments unnecessary. Krill showed images of the methane ocean creatures that built living architecture. Glyphon demonstrated how his people communicated through crystalline harmonics. Morath explained how being gaseous meant his species thought of boundaries and possession differently. As the evening progressed, both humans and aliens found themselves revising their assumptions about each other. The meal ended with cautious optimism on both sides. What none of the aliens realized was that the next day would bring their biggest shock yet. The day they would discover what tactical training with live ammunition meant to Deathworlders from Earth. The morning began like any other at the Terran Military Academy. The alien students had finally started to adjust to the routine. They could now make it through the morning run without falling too far behind. They had learned which human foods they could safely eat. They even understood some of the jokes the human cadets made. Special training exercise today, John announced at breakfast. His voice had an edge of excitement that made the aliens nervous. What kind of special? Asked Zixtar, using all four hands to eat what humans called pancakes. Lisa grinned. Capture the flag is the best training day of the month. A game? Valara's skin brightened with interest. That sounds pleasant. Paul and Amanda exchanged looks. Daniel laughed. It's not exactly what you're thinking. After breakfast, Commander White instructed the alien visitors to follow her to an observation platform overlooking a massive training complex. The area was split between woodland, urban ruins, and open terrain. High walls surrounded the entire space. This is our tactical training facility, Commander White explained. Today you'll observe our cadets in a realistic combat simulation. The aliens watched as human cadets filed into preparation rooms below. Through large windows, they could see the cadets getting ready, their casual attitudes suddenly replaced with focused efficiency. What are they doing? Asked Krill, his methane bubbling with curiosity. Gearing up, Commander White said, preparing their equipment and reviewing team strategies. The aliens froze in shock as they saw what gearing up meant. The human cadets were putting on body armor, helmets with communication systems, and what were clearly weapons. John's team wore blue markings while Lisa and Daniel's team had red. Amanda and Paul were on separate teams as well. Those are weapons. Glyphon's crystalline structure vibrated with alarm. Real weapons. Commander White nodded casually. Standard training equipment, modified for training purposes of course, but realistic in weight and function. Morath's gaseous form swirled rapidly in his containment field. You can't mean they will use these against each other? Of course they will. That's the point of combat training. Commander White seemed confused by their reaction. How else would they learn? The aliens watched in growing horror as the cadets finished their preparations. The weapons looked deadly. The armor looked serious. The human cadets checked each piece of equipment with practiced care. Then came the moment that would forever change how the aliens viewed humans. An officer walked into each prep room carrying metal boxes. When he opened them, the cadets lined up to receive magazines for their weapons and what looked like small explosive devices. Those can't be. Valara's voice trailed off, her skin turning pale white with shock. Live ammunition, confirmed Commander White, and training grenades with reduced explosive power. Zixtar's four arms began gesturing wildly. They'll kill each other. We have to stop this. He reached for an emergency communication device to contact his homeworld, but Commander White gently stopped him. I assure you no one is going to die today. She pointed to a screen showing detailed medical readouts for all participants. Every cadet is monitored constantly. Their armor can absorb significant impact. The ammunition is specially designed to be painful but not lethal. Pain is the purpose? Morath's translator struggled to convey his horrified tone. Pain is a teacher, Commander White said simply. In real combat, mistakes mean death. Here, mistakes mean pain, and the lesson is learned without losing a soldier. The alien students huddled together as they watched the human cadets enter the training area from different points. John led his blue team with calm hand signals. Lisa and Daniel moved with their red team in perfect coordination. All the casual friendship the aliens had seen in the cafeteria was gone, replaced by intense focus. "This can't be normal," whispered Krill. "They were friends yesterday." An alarm sounded, and the training exercise began. The sounds of gunfire and small explosions filled the air. The aliens watched in stunned silence as their human friends stalked, shot, and attacked each other. On the monitors, they could see John directing his team through the urban section, setting up ambush points. Lisa's tactical brilliance showed, as she anticipated the move and sent part of her team through the woods to flank them. Daniel moved silently through the ruins, weapon ready. "I can't watch this," Valara said, her skin flashing distress patterns. She attempted to leave but found herself unable to look away. A burst of gunfire erupted as Daniel's position was discovered. The aliens gasped as bullets struck him directly in the chest. On the medical monitor, his pain reading spiked, but he rolled to cover and continued fighting. "He was hit." Glyphon's voice rose to a high-pitched frequency. "He needs medical help." "Look at his vitals," Commander White pointed out. "Elevated heart rate, pain response active, but no serious damage. The armor absorbed the impact. He'll have bruises tomorrow, that's all." Below, the battle continued. Amanda used her communication skills to coordinate a complex maneuver between separated units. Paul, despite being in the medical division, moved with surprising stealth to reach a wounded teammate. The aliens watched as John was killed when 3 opponents cornered him. His armor registered multiple hits and a referee instructed him to lie down, simulating death. The medical monitor showed he was in pain but not injured. "This is how you train?" Morath asked, his gas patterns shifting in confusing patterns. "By hurting each other?" Commander White considered the question seriously. "Human history is filled with conflict. We learned long ago that soldiers who train in realistic conditions survive real battles. The pain teaches lessons that lectures cannot." "But you're not at war," Sixtar pointed out. "The Galactic Council has maintained peace for centuries." "Peace is not guaranteed," Commander White said quietly. "And Earth was fighting its own wars long before we joined the galactic community. Old habits die hard." The battle below reached its climax as Lisa led a daring charge through open ground, using smoke grenades for cover. Several of her team members were killed, but she reached the blue flag and captured it, ending the exercise. As the alarm sounded to signal the end of training, the aliens expected the human cadets to remain enemies. Instead, they watched in confusion as the dead stood up. Teammates helped opponents to their feet, and everyone began laughing and discussing the exercise. Daniel clapped John on the shoulder. "That ambush was perfect. I never saw it coming until it was too late." John shook his head. "Your flanking maneuver was better. Lisa's plan worked perfectly." Lisa herself was already discussing improvements with her team. "We lost too many people on that final push. Next time we need better cover." The alien students could not reconcile what they were seeing. These humans had just been shooting each other, causing real pain, and now they were friendly again as if nothing had happened. Commander White led the aliens down to meet the human cadets as they removed their armor and secured their weapons. "How can you do this?" Valara asked Lisa directly. "How can you hurt your friends and then act like nothing happened?" Lisa looked genuinely confused by the question. "The pain is temporary. The lessons are permanent. Next time I might have to make these decisions with real lives at stake." "You actually want this?" Krill's translator conveyed his disbelief. "Want isn't the right word," Paul explained as he checked another cadet's bruised ribs. "We accept it, as necessary. Earth taught humans that being unprepared costs lives." As the alien students tried to process what they had witnessed, Commander White received an urgent message. Her expression became serious. All cadets to their stations, she announced. This is not a drill, I repeat, this is not a drill. The human cadets immediately snapped back into their focused battle mode, moving with purpose toward their assigned areas. Their alien visitors stood frozen, not understanding what was happening. What does not a drill mean? Asked Zixtar. With growing alarm, John paused before running to his post. It means the training is over and now it's real. Alarms blared throughout the Terran Military Academy. Red lights flashed in every hallway. The human cadets moved with practiced efficiency, all traces of their earlier friendliness replaced by focused determination. The alien students stood, frozen, unsure what to do. What's happening? Zixtar asked, all forearms trembling. Commander White checked her communication device. Environmental system failure in the East Wing. That's where your quarters are located. She turned to the aliens with deadly seriousness. The atmospheric conditions are rapidly becoming dangerous for non-human biology. My backup methane supply is in my room. Krill bubbled with panic. Without it, my suit will run out of breathable atmosphere in 3 hours. All my stabilization equipment is there too, added Glyphon, his crystalline structure already showing stress fractures. Commander, White nodded to John, who was waiting nearby for orders. Take a team and secure the alien quarters. Retrieve their essential equipment. Yes, Commander. John turned to the aliens. What exactly do you need, and where is it located in your rooms? As the aliens described their vital equipment, the human cadets listened carefully and took notes. There was no confusion, no argument about the danger. They simply accepted the mission. That section is filling with nitrogen-heavy atmosphere, Paul noted as he checked environmental readings on a tablet. Humans can survive it for about 10 minutes with proper breathing techniques, but it will be uncomfortable. We trained for this last month, Lisa reminded everyone. Remember the toxic gas drill? Same protocols. The aliens watched in amazement as their human guides transformed before their eyes. John organized the rescue team with hand signals and short commands. Lisa pulled up building schematics and planned the most efficient route. Daniel checked emergency breathing equipment. Amanda coordinated communication channels with the command center. Paul prepared medical kits for potential injuries. You're really going in there? Valara asked, her skin pulsing with concern. The atmosphere will hurt you. That's why we train, John said simply, as if that explained everything. The rescue team moved out, leaving the aliens with Commander White in the command center. On large screens, they could track the team's progress through the building. Vital. Sign monitors showed elevated heart rates but no serious distress yet. I don't understand, Morath said, his gas patterns swirling anxiously in his containment field. Why risk human lives for our equipment? We could request replacements from our homeworlds. Commander White's expression remained steady. Because that's not what we do. We don't leave anyone's needs unmet if we can help it. On the screens, they watched as the rescue team reached the contaminated section. The air was visibly different. With a slight haze, the cadets put on their breathing equipment and entered. Their oxygen levels are dropping despite the breathing apparatus, Glyphon observed, watching the medical readouts. The nitrogen is penetrating their equipment. No, Commander White said quietly. They'll complete the mission anyway. Inside the alien quarters, the team moved quickly. John located Krill's methane tanks. Lisa found Valara's psychic dampeners. Daniel secured Glyphon's silicon regeneration equipment. Amanda retrieved Morath's containment field stabilizers. Paul gathered medical data from each room. The aliens watched as the vital signs of their human friends began to show increasing stress. Oxygen saturation dropped. Heart rates climbed. Warning indicators flashed on the medical monitors. They need to get out now, Zixtar said with growing alarm. The nitrogen levels are becoming dangerous. They know their limits, Commander White assured him. Trust their training. On the screen, they could see the rescue team gathering the last pieces of equipment. Suddenly, part of the ceiling collapsed, blocking their planned exit route. Without hesitation, John directed the team to an alternative path they had identified during training exercises. How did they know that would happen? Krill asked, his methane bubbling rapidly with anxiety. "We didn't," Commander White explained. "But we train for unexpected obstacles. Nothing ever goes exactly as planned." The team reached a security door that wouldn't open due to the emergency lockdown. Daniel quickly removed a panel and rewired the system, a skill he had learned in weapons training that transferred perfectly to this new challenge. "The same principles apply to many systems," Commander White noted, seeing the alien's surprise. "That's why our training covers so many scenarios." Finally, the rescue team emerged from the contaminated section, carrying all the essential equipment. Their faces were flushed and they were breathing heavily as they removed their masks. Medical staff immediately checked their condition, while technicians secured the alien equipment. "Oxygen therapy for all of you," Paul instructed his teammates, even as he helped check the others despite his own discomfort. The aliens rushed to their human friends, expressions of concern and gratitude mixed on their alien faces. "Why did you do that?" Valara asked Lisa, who was still catching her breath. "You could have been seriously hurt." Lisa looked confused by the question. "Because you needed help. That's what teammates do." "But we're not even from your world," Glyphon said, his crystalline structure vibrating with emotion. "We've only known each other for days." John shrugged, wincing slightly from the pain in his lungs. "Doesn't matter where you're from. You're here now. That makes you our responsibility." Commander White approached with an update. "The environmental system failure appears to be mechanical, not accidental. We're investigating the cause." The human cadets immediately tensed, their expressions changing from exhaustion to alertness. The aliens noticed the shift. "You think this was deliberate?" Morath asked, his gas patterns shifting nervously. "We always consider all possibilities," Daniel explained. "Better to be prepared for the worst-case scenario and be wrong than to be unprepared and be right." As the alien students watched the humans recover and immediately begin planning for potential threats, something fundamental shifted in their understanding of these Deathworlders. The training with live ammunition, the constant drills, the preparation for disasters, all of it suddenly made sense. "This is why you train the way you do," Zixitar said slowly, realization dawning. "The pain during training prevents greater pain during real emergencies." Amanda nodded. "Exactly. Every bruise from training is a lesson that might save a life, when it really matters." As the day continued, the aliens observed the humans from a new perspective. They watched as the rescue team, despite their recent exertion and oxygen deprivation, joined the investigation into the environmental system failure. They saw how the lessons from combat training applied directly to crisis response. They noticed how no human complained about discomfort or danger. That evening, as they gathered in a temporary common room, the atmosphere between the aliens and humans had changed. The distance created by cultural differences seemed less important. Now, "I sent a message to my homeworld today," Valara said quietly. "I told them we had been wrong about humans." "Wrong how?" Lisa asked. "We thought your combat training and constant preparation for disaster meant you were paranoid and violent," Valara explained, her skin glowing with a soft blue light of understanding. "Now I see it's the opposite. You train to protect others, not just yourselves." John looked embarrassed by the praise. "It's just how we survive on Earth. Always has been." "No," Morath disagreed, his gas patterns forming what the translator indicated was a smile. "It's how Deathworlders become the kind of people who rush into danger for others without hesitation." As the investigation continued into the night, a new respect grew between the species. The aliens began to see that the harsh training they had witnessed was not about violence, it was about survival. Not just the survival of humans, but the survival of anyone the humans considered under their protection. The next day would bring new challenges as the investigation revealed the true nature of the environmental system failure, and the aliens would have their own opportunity to prove that they too had valuable skills to contribute to the crisis. Morning brought troubling news to the Terran Military Academy. Commander White called both human cadets and alien students to an emergency briefing. The environmental system failure was not an accident, she announced, her face grim. Someone deliberately sabotaged the controls. We believe it was aimed specifically at our alien visitors. The room fell silent. The human cadets automatically moved closer to their alien counterparts in a protective formation that seemed completely natural to them. Who would do such a thing? Krill bubbled nervously inside his methane suit. We have anti-alien groups on Earth, Lisa explained quietly. People who fear what they don't understand. We call them xenophobes. Commander White continued. We've identified the saboteur as a maintenance worker with connections to an isolationist group. He's been apprehended, but our system scan shows he planted additional sabotage devices throughout the academy. What kind of devices? John asked, immediately shifting into tactical mode. Programs set to trigger cascading failures in life support, power systems, and security. Commander White looked at each person in the room. We need to find and neutralize all of them before they activate. The human cadets immediately began organizing search teams. The aliens watched, still amazed at how quickly humans shifted from casual conversation to crisis response. What can we do to help? Zixtar asked, his forearms gesturing with determination. This is our academy too now. The humans paused, then John nodded. You each have unique abilities that might help us. The academy was divided into search zones. Each alien was paired with human cadets based on their abilities. Zixtar's forearms allowed him to check multiple systems simultaneously. Valara's telepathy could detect hidden human presences that might be additional saboteurs. Krill's methane-based biology made him immune to certain gases. Glyphon's crystalline structure could detect electronic signals. Morath's gaseous form could slip through tiny spaces to reach hidden areas. Remember your training, Commander White told the human cadets. Then she turned to the aliens. And remember what you've learned from watching them. The team spread throughout the academy. In the command center, they could communicate with each other and coordinate their efforts. Zixtar worked with John to check mechanical systems. His forearms moved rapidly across control panels, following John's instructions. I found something, Zixtar called out, his upper right hand pointing to an unusual connection. This doesn't match the schematics. John examined it carefully. Good catch, that's a remote trigger device. He showed Zixtar how to safely disconnect it. Your extra arms just saved us at least 10 minutes. Time matters in a crisis. In another section, Lisa and Valara searched the living quarters. Valara's skin flashed with concentration as she extended her telepathic senses. There's someone hiding in that storage room, she whispered to Lisa. Their thoughts are violent. Lisa immediately called for backup and approached the door with her weapon ready. Academy security, come out with your hands visible. When the hidden accomplice tried to escape through a back entrance, they found Daniel waiting for them. The training with live ammunition had taught him exactly where to position himself. Krill discovered his methane environment, gave him an advantage when a sabotaged system released nitrogen gas into a section. While the human cadets had to wear breathing apparatus, he could move freely and locate the source of the leak. The humans trained for this, he told himself, pushing through his fear. I can be brave too. Glyphon's silicon-based biology allowed him to interface directly with electronic systems in ways humans couldn't. Working with Amanda, he detected subtle programming changes that would have caused life support to fail throughout the academy. My crystalline structure resonates with the electronic frequencies, he explained as Amanda watched him work. I can feel the wrong patterns. Morath's gaseous form proved invaluable when they needed to check sealed ventilation systems. He could slip through tiny openings, searching for devices planted in areas too small for humans to reach. Being able to change my shape is normal on my world, he told Paul as he reformed after checking a duct. I never thought of it as a survival advantage until now. As the day progressed, human and alien teams located and neutralized 17 sabotage devices. Each success strengthened the bond between them. The humans' combat training and constant preparation proved essential, but the aliens' unique abilities made the difference in many situations. In the final hour of the search, disaster struck. A previously undiscovered device activated, causing a power surge that trapped John's team in a section where oxygen levels began to drop rapidly. The doors were sealed, communications failed, and backup systems didn't respond. We have 30 minutes of air at most, John calculated, his combat training allowing him to stay calm. Standard rescue protocols will take at least 45 minutes to reach us. Zixtar looked at the sealed doors, the ventilation system, and the manual override that was just out of reach in a narrow maintenance tunnel. I have an idea, he said. Morath can travel through the smallest air vents to reach the environmental control room. Krill doesn't need oxygen and can survive in the tunnel to reach the manual override. Valara can maintain telepathic communication when regular systems fail. Glyphon can interface with the electrical system to prevent further surges. John looked at Zixtar with new respect. That could work, but it would put all of you at risk. You risked yourselves for our equipment, Zixtar replied, all four hands gesturing with determination. Now we risk ourselves for your lives. The alien students implemented their plan with the same focus they had observed in their human counterparts. Morath navigated the ventilation system. Krill squeezed into the narrow tunnel. Valara maintained a telepathic link between all teams. Glyphon stabilized the electrical systems. When oxygen levels dropped to critical levels, the human cadets began to lose consciousness. Just as John's eyes started to close, the doors opened. Fresh air flooded in. Emergency lights came on. Commander, White arrived with medical teams to find the human cadets being helped by their alien counterparts. The roles had reversed. Now the aliens were the rescuers. 2 days later, the Academy held a special ceremony. The sabotage had been completely neutralized. The Academy was secure. More importantly, a new understanding had formed between humans and aliens. Today we recognize the courage and cooperation that saved lives, Commander White announced to the assembled cadets and visitors. Our training methods may seem harsh to outsiders, but this crisis proved their value. One by one, she called the alien students forward and presented each with an honorary combat certification, a recognition previously given only to humans. You came to us believing humans train with live ammunition because we are violent, Commander, White said. You leave understanding that we train this way because we must be ready to protect what matters most. Zixtar stepped forward, his forearms holding a document bearing the seals of all 5 alien worlds. And we came believing Deathworlders were dangerous, he said. We leave knowing that sometimes having dangerous friends is the greatest safety of all. The document established a permanent exchange program between Earth and the 5 alien worlds. Future military and civilian personnel would train together, learning from each other's strengths. As they prepared to return to their homeworlds, the alien students looked different than when they had arrived. They stood straighter, moved with more confidence, and showed none of their earlier fear of humans. Will you continue training with live ammunition? Lisa asked Valara as they said their goodbyes. Valara's skin glowed with a new pattern, one that reflected determination rather than fear. Perhaps not with bullets, she said, but we have learned that comfort does not prepare one for crisis. Pain can be a teacher if the lesson is worth learning. The 5 alien students boarded their transport ship, carrying with them not just souvenirs from Earth, but a new understanding of what it meant to be prepared for an unforgiving universe. And the humans watched them go, knowing that somewhere in the stars, they now had allies who truly understood them. The shocking day alien. Students learned Deathworlders train with live ammo had changed both species forever.